let's first start with, and this is going somewhere, but let's first start with in President Trump's first um, term.
Mhm.
Did he inherit? Do you recall if he inherited a good or bad economy?
Yeah, so essentially it was not great.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, we were heading to recession sometime 2020 2019.
Okay.
Things weren't phenomenal. They also weren't terrible either because some of these things take time to really kind of work themselves into the economy. You could be talking 18 to 24 months.
But
That was 20.
2019 is on the back end of his turn. He came in 2016, right?
Yeah, so that was kind of on the back end. So 2016, I don't know if people remember, but right around that 2015-16 timeframe, oil prices crashed,
Hmm.
or oil stocks crashed
Hmm.
significantly, right? There was like a lot of like kind of turmoil within the equities markets. They were starting to raise interest rates again. So things were getting kind of tough within that time frame,
Okay.
and he was trying to work ourselves out of that through his first term. Um, and the market just went bonkers to the upside when he came in office. And, he was trying to make some changes there. But coming into 2019, it was pretty clear that, I mean, it was like a slow train wreck kind of, as we were watching it, it's like watching a train wreck happen in slow motion, as people say.
Yeah.
So there was some changes that he made. A lot of it, he came in with tariffs, right? And that was probably the start of the inflationary experience that we were starting to witness. It also didn't help that when 2020 happened, the government just started taking on a lot of debt and giving out a bunch of money. So that was
Yes.
another reason why inflation started to take off. So we actually really didn't get to see the effects of the initial tariffs in the
Okay.
way that we would expect just
Okay.
because of COVID.
Okay. So that means so it sounds like he was more correct than President Obama because President Obama was saying that the the economy had been trending better since when he inherited it from Bush, right? Yeah, from Bush prior.
So yeah, all
But
right.
you're
So
saying it was more of a it was heading down. So I'm trying to make sure like as the baton gets handed over, we understand kind of where things are because then that kind of helps us understand why that next administration has specific desires and initiatives around the economy based off of the condition that they're receiving that
yeah,
baton in. You see what I mean?
Uh, yeah, okay. So let's back up a little bit. In Obama's two terms, well, first of all, we had 2008 crisis, right?
Yeah.
We come out of 2008 and we're in shambles. Like I remember I was working at Morgan Stanley and we would just hear so many different types of, and this is 2010. So this is after the market already bottomed in 2009. We would hear like a lot of crazy stuff happening. People
Right.
didn't believe that we were coming out of the great financial recession in 2010. People like still held on to that into 2011, and then even 2013 markets up 35% or something like that, and people still think we're in a recession, right?
Okay.
So if we go back a little bit, 2008, what happened in 2008? We really just put a band-aid on it, right? We did a few items like we lowered interest rates basically to zero. So we did a lot of quantitative easing, which basically gave the federal government and individuals the ability to go out and buy houses and all this stuff because we basically trended interest rates lower.
Hmm.
With quantitative easing, what happens is the federal or the Federal Reserve comes in and they start buying some of those bonds that we have, so those treasury debts that I was talking about earlier. They go and buy a whole bunch of them all along the yield curve. That forces interest rates lower because it's an inversely correlated type of a purchase. So if there's a lot of bonds on the market, right, that are out there freely for people to buy, they want them to buy so they have higher rates. But if you're
Hmm.
going to buy a whole bunch of them, there's not that many out there, right? Then the rates are on those are actually going to drop lower. And
Gotcha.
so it's also prices too. So as rates go higher, prices go lower, and as rates go lower, prices go higher. So it's inversely correlated. But the point of it is as we came out of that, they went on this quantitative easing path, which basically just was flooding money into the economy. And it's kind of a false way to show that we're doing better, if that makes sense. So
Hmm.
it's not necessarily that the economy was terrible, but we were on this path where it's not a real show of how things are working, because
Yeah.
now you just have cheap money, it's out there freely, and we just continually overinflating the our government deficit. So it's all culminating into now. I mean, even through Trump's term, he really didn't take much to take down the deficit, right, that we had. And again, what we're at, you can go to the U.S. debt clock. I think it's usdebtclock.org or something, and you can see where we are. usdebtclock.org. I'm going to type it in and just read it off for you. A national debt clock, usdebtclock.org. So we're at $36 trillion in national debt. That's $323,000 per taxpayer that we have of debt. We have federal tax revenue of 5 trillion, which so we're $20 trillion difference there. So we're nowhere near a balanced budget, but obviously, like I said before, I mean it's possible that we can start paying this down. It just may take us a decade or two. So the point of it is economically we are doing well because there's a lot of free money moving around there without anyone to say, hey, like this is not right, we need to do this a little slower.
Yeah.
So in his second term he's saying, hey, look, like how are we going to make these big changes within government? In his first term he wasn't a politician, he didn't know what to do, he didn't really understand how things work from the federal government standpoint. In this term he's a lot more in tune with that. So he's, in the last 3 weeks, he's done, a year's worth of work essentially. So we're hoping that, he can start making some of these big changes, and some of these big changes are going to happen with tariffs. At least he hopes, and I have a hope for that too. I'm skeptical that they'll actually work the way he thinks, because I think there's going to be a lot of roadblocks.
Yeah.
But a tariff comes in and it's going to affect us individually in some way. I don't know exactly how bad it will be, but we will see probably price increases until companies start coming here to produce and start coming here to start making products and goods again, because he's really trying to reshore things. But coming back from Obama into as Trump got elected, 2015-16 wasn't a great time,
Hmm.
right? Coming out of that, we just had continued inflation of our deficit.